Modern marketing taught you to see calm, durable, useful products as boring. If something doesn't change your mood, draw a look, or come with a new story, it can start to feel like it's falling behind. But a product that works without asking for your attention isn't dull. It has done its job. Bo. Why? While. G. Show you use it, put it away, and get on with your life. In a minute, you'll see how novelty gets dressed up as quality and how to judge an upgrade without losing money or time to it. Because a product that keeps working creates a problem for the company that sold it. A durable product closes a sale for a long time. That's good for you. But it limits how often a company can sell you the same thing again. So the product has to change before it needs to. A new finish appears. A slight shape change gets framed as a fresh point of view. What? A familiar tool gets placed inside a news story about who you are becoming, even though the job it does hasn't changed at all. The aim isn't always to improve the product. The aim is to restart desire. Think about the language around a new release. It rarely talks only about the plain job the product does. It talks about a new way to work, a new way to live, a new look, a new standard. The old version can still solve the same problem well, but now it carries the quiet stain of being from before. That feeling doesn't come from function. It comes from contrast. You see the new version beside the old one, and your mind starts grading your own stuff against a staged comparison. The new one looks clean because it hasn't been used. The old one looks tired because it belongs to your actual life. One sits under soft light with no fingerprints. The other has done years of work. Only one looks good in an ad. A launch can create the feeling of progress even when your own life hasn't changed. New colors, new photos, new reviews, and a stream of other buyers all create motion around the same basic need. Your brain reads that motion as proof that something has moved forward, but activity isn't progress. A new box isn't proof that the old product failed. This works well because status signaling hides inside normal buying. You aren't only shown a tool, you're shown a version of yourself using that tool. The message stays polite, but it lands hard. This is what a person with taste owns. This is what a person at your level chooses. This is how you show that you belong in the room you worked so hard to enter. A need solves a problem. A signal performs for an audience. That audience may be coworkers, friends, strangers, or a vague idea of who you think you should be by now. Marketing doesn't need you to admit that out loud. It only needs you to feel a small gap between your current self and the self in the ad. Then it sells you a bridge. The system also turns normal wear into a reason to replace. A scratch, a worn edge, a faded surface, or a design you've simply seen too often can get recast as evidence that the product has lost its worth. But wear often means use. A familiar shape often means you've learned it well. Consider how strange this is. You use something long enough for it to become part of your day, and then the market treats that lack of novelty as a defect. The product still works, but it no longer creates a feeling. So it gets pushed aside. That isn't a flaw in the product. It's a flaw in the scorecard. The buying cycle depends on a short emotional pattern. You feel the pull. You buy the thing. For a brief stretch, the choice feels clean and complete because the gap has closed. Then your mind adjusts. The new thing becomes your normal thing, and normal doesn't hold much charge. Soon, another release, another image, or another person's upgrade puts the gap back where it started. The product didn't lose its function. The feeling wore off. That's the part the system counts on. Quality tends to disappear into daily life because it doesn't create problems. It works, holds up, and stays out of your way. Marketing needs the opposite. It needs replacement to feel like self-expression, because self-expression has no finish line. You can't sell much to someone who feels done. Once you see that incentive, a different question comes into view. What does quality look like when no one needs to sell it to you? Build your own scorecard and keep it plain. Does this product still solve the problem you bought it to solve? Does it hold up under normal use? Can you fix it when something wears out? And will it still earn its place next year? That's quality, not a fresh look, not a new story. Doing a route cow are CUIG and a build got runner. Knee got. There's sorry. Function that lasts. Try what I call the boring test. Strip away the logo, the trend, the launch talk, and the imagined reaction from anyone who might see you use it. Then ask yourself what remains when the audience leaves the room. If the answer is a well-built tool that does its job with little fuss, you've found something worth keeping. If the appeal disappears with the audience, you weren't judging the product. You were judging the signal. That distinction can save you a lot of money. Before you replace something, maintain it. Clean it properly. Learn the settings you ignored when it was new. Fix the small fault instead of treating it like a death sentence. A worn surface doesn't always need a replacement plan. Sometimes it needs 5 minutes of care. This isn't about clinging to things past their useful life. When a product fails at its job, costs too much to repair, or no longer meets a real need, replace it without guilt. But a product that still works deserves a fair hearing before novelty gets to act as the judge. Buyful, buy it for life, works best as a mindset, not a promise stamped on a box. You can't know that every item will last forever. You can choose to buy fewer things that have a fair shot at earning their place over years, rather than things built to impress for 1 week. Think of your home as a workshop, not a display case. The best tools don't demand praise each time you use them. They fit your hand, do the work, and return to their spot until you need them again. That quiet fit is the point. Every upgrade also charges more than the price on the receipt. You spend time reading reviews, comparing options, moving files, learning new menus, setting it up, returning what disappoints you, and thinking about whether you chose well. That mental load adds up. A product you already know can save you from decisions you never needed to make. Keeping it doesn't just protect your bank balance. It protects your attention, which is harder to earn back once you've handed it to a dozen small buying decisions. And that changes the trade-off. Quiet wealth isn't only a larger number sitting somewhere out of sight. It's more of your income under your control, fewer objects demanding care, and more room to buy back your time. You don't need a life full of cheap things you replace. You also don't need a life full of costly things you display. You need things that work well enough for long enough that you can focus on what matters outside the product. Use a short pause before you buy. Name the problem in one plain sentence. Then name the audience you hope will notice the new thing, even if that audience is only the version of you you've been trying to become. Write both down if you need to. Then wait until function gives you a clear answer. If the old product can't do what you need, the upgrade has a job. If the main reason is that the new one feels more current, you've learned something useful before spending money. Boring stops feeling like a flaw when your internal scoreboard stops giving points for newness. You start grading your things on service, not spectacle. That's a much harder system to sell to, which is exactly why it works for you. A product that works quietly for years isn't boring. It's one less part of your life asking for money, time, and attention. If this reframed something for you, subscribe. We talk about cutting lifestyle creep, building quiet wealth, and living on your own terms without turning every purchase into a performance.